And I think so often we just neglect taking that big picture, high level view and understanding of what's really going on in a holistic way in our lives in real time as we have these little kids running around and in our arms. And that is what we need to do in order to orient our life toward God. We need to start with point A in order to know how to get to point B. Hey Mama, and welcome to the Christian Mom Reset. I'm your host, Kristen, women's minister, homeschooling boy mom ×3, and just like you, striving to walk closely with God while balancing all the things. If you're looking to heal from spiritual depletion, grow in your faith, and walk intimately with God right now in the messy middle of motherhood, then you're in the right place. Get ready to go deep, listen closely for God's voice, and expect transformation, because that is what our God can do. So whether you're folding laundry or enjoying a kid-free car ride, let's hit that reset button together. You ready? Let's go. Hello, and welcome back to the Christian Mom Reset. I am so excited to be chatting right now. Long time no talk. It is February. Happy February for those of you listening in real time. Happy day for those of you listening any other time besides February. I hope that you have enjoyed the start of your year and had many happy moments and memories. I know that in our house, we have had that, and we've also had loads and loads of sickness. In fact, one of my sons just threw up this morning, #momlife. There's just a never-ending amount of sickness going on in our house for like 2 months now. So you can say a little prayer for me if you will. Nevertheless, I am very excited to talk to you today about this topic. So the title of this episode is Why Overwhelmed Christian Moms Feel Far from God and What's Really Going On. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart. Stick around. I know it sounds similar to other titles, but I'm going to talk about things in a more holistic way and that I haven't talked about completely before in other episodes. And I'm really going to do this from a flow of consciousness. So it's going to sound a little bit different than my other episodes, but I think you're going to love it. There is so much to glean from this one. So let's dive in. Here, we're going to start with the assumption. The assumption when you become a mother and you love Jesus and you're trying to live for him and with him and through him and read your word and pray every day and do all the right things and be all the right things, the assumption is if I love God and try hard, then I should feel close to him and grow as a disciple of Jesus, right? A plus B equals C. If I read my Bible and I pray, then I'll be a good disciple. But here is where that breaks down and truthfully just falls apart sometimes when you enter motherhood. And I don't care if this is your first baby, your third baby, your fifth baby. This is true for almost everybody. Motherhood is different than pre-motherhood. You cannot live and act the same way you did before you have kids, after you have kids. And this is true in every area of your life, right? You don't have enough time to shower. You don't have enough time to eat a warm meal. You don't have enough time to hang out with friends. You don't have enough time to sleep, for goodness sake. So why do you expect your walk with God to be unaffected when every other area of your life is affected by having children? Yet, so many of us walk around being tempted by Satan all the time to just believe that we're failures, believe that we're not doing enough, that we're not doing it right. If we only try harder, why can't I do this? And it wrecks our emotional health and our spiritual health. But here's the truth. You have to know where you're at in order to know where you're going. In order to get to point B, you have to know where point A is. And I think so often we just neglect taking that big picture, high level view and understanding of what's really going on in a holistic way in our lives in real time as we have these little kids running around and in our arms. And that is what we need to do in order to orient our life toward God. We need to start with point A in order to know how to get to point B. So we have a problem. The problem is motherhood, especially when you have littles, is simply a different season. You cannot expect to use the same tools you did pre-kids and see the same results. You don't have as much time. You don't have as much energy. You don't have as much bandwidth. And you don't even have as many resources as you used to pre-kids. And so that's the problem. We are in this situation where we have less, but we're trying to do it the same. And that, my friend, is the definition of insanity, right? We don't want to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We want to figure out, where am I in life right now with my rhythms, with my body, with my mind, with my spiritual relationships, and based on where I am right now, how can I move forward? You need new rhythms and new tools and new expectations for this season. New wine can't go into old wineskins. You know the scripture. It's Mark 2:22, and it says, "No one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins." So the old wineskin is your life before kids. And then your life after kids is the new wineskin and the new wine. You have a different reality than you did before you had children. Your body, your mind, and your schedule and your relationships are and look vastly different than they used to, and you need to account for that. Discipleship that ignores the body does not work in this season because everything is connected. I myself use the label crunchy mom. I consider myself a crunchy mom, and I am super into health and wellness. I studied psychology in college. I love the mind. I love learning about all these things. I'm trauma informed. I have healed so much of my trauma, and I'm still working through things now. And I have seen, with God's help, how all of it is connected. We like to compartmentalize these things, but truthfully, they are not compartmentalized. God created our body as a whole, and all of our systems work together and, in an ideal world, work in unison with each other. But when we start ignoring parts of our bodies or parts of our minds or different aspects of our health, that is when we run into trouble. So my goal for you right now is to help you understand, to help you take that step back, see that bigger picture, high level understanding and view of what's going on in your life right now. And hopefully you've seen a little bit of that already in these couple of minutes that we've been talking about what's going on. I mean, you've lived it or you're living it. You have less sleep, you have less time, you have less bandwidth, you have something called a window of tolerance, and your window of tolerance has gotten smaller as a mother because of the things that I just mentioned. So your window of tolerance is either above or below the things that you can handle before your nervous system goes into a different state, right? Before you go into fight or flight, or before you go into freeze, for example. So you hear a kid let out a scream. And if you're within your window of tolerance, your heart does not start racing, your mind does not go to the worst scenario. You just become curious and you say, I should go and check what's going on. And you go and you do so, and you stay calm and you stay patient and you think, oh, yes, mom win. Like, I did it. I was a good mom. Now, when you are outside of your window of tolerance, because your window of tolerance is smaller and your capacity to deal with or handle things is smaller, when you hear that scream, you might automatically get mad because you think to yourself, oh, I told them to not yell when things are wrong. Just tell me what's going on. It's the boy who cried wolf. Or you think to yourself, oh my gosh, what's wrong? Are they bleeding? Do I need to go to the hospital? And you start running and you start imagining all these horrid things in your mind. And that is when you are outside of your window of tolerance. You are no longer in homeostasis. You are not balanced. You are now either in fight or flight or freeze or one of the other things, but you are not the mom that you are hoping to be because your bandwidth is smaller and the things going on around you have pushed you outside of the boundaries of your bandwidth, of your capacity. And so what do we do as women who love the Lord, as women who are trying to be like Jesus? Honestly, a lot of times we just push, try and push through and expect it to be okay. We say a prayer, we read a verse, we try and talk to someone. And yes, those are awesome things, necessary things, biblical things, things that we ought to do and want to do. But we leave it at that and we ignore the body and we ignore the mind. And we forget that we are one whole person made up of many parts, and all the parts work together. And in order to bring them back into harmony, we need to pay attention to those parts. Therefore, if you lack capacity, physical capacity, for example, emotional capacity, mental capacity, in this stage of motherhood, because of things like nervous system overload, sleep deprivation, a lack of nutritious eating. Raise your hand. I want you to raise your hand right now in your car, in your living room, in the shower. Raise your hand if you have not been eating well since becoming a mom. That matters. Poor lifestyle habits like being on your phone constantly. There is a such thing as blue light addiction, and so many of us have it. Other poor lifestyle habits are not getting any time outside or any time with the sun in your eyes or any time with your feet on the grass doing some grounding, which is so good for you. Or maybe you're not drinking enough water. Maybe you're not plugged into a supportive community. There are so many things that can cause us to lose our bandwidth, lose our capacity. If you have all of that going on, that is going to directly affect your capacity for spiritual and emotional wellness as well. They are not different. They are the same. They are connected. There is a thread going through all of this. So if you feel far from God, if you feel like you're having trouble connecting, trouble focusing in prayer or in Bible study, trouble even feeling motivated, or you feel motivated but you just somehow can't get yourself to create the space and time that you really need with Him, then I encourage you to take a look at the other areas of your life and assess, how am I doing? How am I doing in all these different areas? Because it's a domino effect and they all have consequences and they all affect one another. So that, sister, is the problem that we have. That is the point A that we are at. Now let's talk about point B. Point B is the mom you want to be. And maybe you're living some of those things out right now. I mean, it's not all awful things happening all the time. Motherhood is beautiful and magical, and it has its seasons, and there are so many good things. And oftentimes what I find is that many moms have a lot of things going well and one or two things that just really need some help. And then there are times when we're in seasons where we feel like nothing is going well, and that happens to all of us. So if you're there, please don't feel alone or like a failure, because you are not. It is just time to reassess. All right, so point B is where you want to be. It's the ideal situation, the ideal world. You are a patient, calm, present, loving mom. You have a schedule or routines or rhythms that you stick to easily. Your house is clean. You and your husband are connected. You and God are connected. You enjoy your life. You laugh. You have fun. And even when things are hard, you have the tools and the resources to handle it. Am I forgetting anything? This sounds like the most amazing life that we all want to be living. And you know what? It is possible within reason, because life is life and life be lifin', but it is possible. What you need is spiritual renewal through embodied rhythms. In paying attention to your body, to your lifestyle, to your thought life, and remembering that all of that is connected to your spiritual life and your spiritual wellness, you are going to see that by taking care of the one, you're also taking care of the other. So how does that work? What does that look like? Well, it's a lot of the things that I just mentioned. It's all the things that push us out of our capacity. It's taking those things one by one in the order that feels best to us, in the way that we can handle it, because every person and every person's life and life circumstances is different, and working on it one step at a time based on what we have right now. God never asks us to work with things that we don't have. He asked Moses, "What's in your hands?" He asked the woman with a little bit of oil left to believe and trust that the little bit of oil that she had was enough. God knows where you're at. He knows what you have. He knows what your capacity is. And He knows that it is enough, because His is the power and the glory forever and ever. He is going to do the work in you if you allow Him to, if you give Him the space and the time and the attention. In order for Him to do that work through the Holy Spirit, He will help you find victory. He always does. He always has. He always will. Let me give you an example. Not that I have any familiarity with anything like this. Okay, just kidding. This is totally what my life has been like recently with all the sickness that's been going on in our house. So with all the illness, here's what happens with my rhythms, at least. I don't know if you can relate to this. So one child gets sick, or maybe there's two sick, or it's ongoing sickness. And what winds up happening is, with my kids at least, sometimes they want to be on their own and they're okay with just like watching a movie and sitting on their own. But other times, and I feel like more often than not, they want mama. And so I'm holding them throughout the day. I am, in the case of my baby, nursing him way more often. I am just hand and foot serving them and still serving my kids. And then all of my plans go out the window, because I don't have time to do the things that I wanted to do because it's been taken up by taking care of kids. Or I'm not an octopus and I can't fold clothes and make food and hold a child all at the same time. And so I get behind on my rhythms. Laundry starts piling up. I don't get my to-do list done. I don't necessarily get to connect with my husband every night, as we like to do, talking on the couch, because a child needs extra help going to sleep or wakes up more often, so we get interrupted. Everything gets thrown off. Because everything gets thrown off, my nervous system, after long enough, if I have exited my window of tolerance, if I've gone beyond that, my nervous system starts to get fried. I become more frazzled. I start to think thoughts like, I'm a failure, as I see piles of laundry, rising higher and higher, or sitting in the dryer for days and not being folded. And I start to feel negative. And what do? My temptation is one thing that splits its way down into multiple things. My temptation is to look for comfort. And so I look for comfort most often by doing two things or three things. One, I look for comfort on my phone, which I've gotten so much better at this. I don't do it as often as I used to. I'm really proud of my phone boundaries, but I still slip up. I still scroll when I don't want to or I didn't mean to. So I look for comfort in my phone. And honestly, blue light addiction is a huge part of that. You get those dopamine hits, and whether it's on social media or something else, there's just dopamine flying all around on the internet for you, and it keeps you locked in. And that's the whole point, isn't it? So I go to my phone, or I start wanting sweets. And I know that there are people out there who can relate to both of these things, but definitely the second thing, because I used to have a company where I taught people how to reassess and reset their relationship with sugar. And going to sugar as a coping mechanism is one of the most common things that we do. So maybe I'm not necessarily eating candy, but I'm looking for comfort foods. And what that means for me is I'm eating less nutritionally dense foods, or I'm not eating the rainbow. So I will maybe only have vegetables at dinner. And throughout the day, I'm like doing little carb-loaded snacks or lots of dairy with some honey or maple syrup. That combination of fat and sugar together lights up the dopamine receptors in your brain and makes you feel good. That's why we like ice cream so much. And I don't turn to food as like an immediate coping mechanism, but I start craving it more often. And therefore, my good eating habits that I've worked so hard for go out the window. What happens when those go out the window? Well, I start to get more tired. I start to get more brain fog. I start to get crankier. I start to not feel well. And all of those result in me having even less capacity than I already had to fulfill the roles that God has put me in, to execute those things. And then I'm wanting to sleep more. So maybe I'm staying up on my phone late to get a little quote unquote me time, relaxation, those dopamine hits that I've been craving all day. And then because I stay up late, I don't feel like I can wake up early because I'm so tired, not just from staying up late, but I'm staying up late with a screen in my face, which makes you even more tired. And so then I wake up late and I start the day without time with God, with children begging me for their attention. I spend the morning giving to them and giving them what they need. I have my breakfast late. I have a little bit of time with God, but not enough, and it's interrupted, and it's not the peaceful time that I was hoping for and could have had if I woke up before them. And then I go throughout the day without all my cylinders firing, and then I feel awful. And I think to myself, negative thoughts, I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not whatever, and the cycle continues. Do you see how it's all connected? If any of this is resonating with you, here's what I want you to do. As soon as this podcast is over, if you have a moment to do it right now, even if you're folding laundry, I want you to pause what you're doing, and I want you to make a list, a short list. Before you make the list, I want you to do this. Put your phone down, put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath, in through your nose, out through your mouth. Do that as many times as you feel like you need to until you feel different, until you feel a little bit more calm, perhaps. And if the calm isn't coming, that's okay. Then I want you to ask yourself, what do I need? And listen. You have to be still and you have to listen. And I promise there will be a voice that will come into your head and give you an answer, maybe multiple answers. Maybe the voice will say, you need some broccoli. Or maybe the voice will say, you need to take a shower. Or maybe the voice will say, honestly, I really just feel like you need to cry. Whatever that voice says, I want you to write it down. And listen. Listen to see if there's any more responses. Based on what the responses you hear after asking that question are, that is where you're going to start. That is going to be your first baby step. Maybe you run to the kitchen and you grab a vegetable or you grab a piece of fruit and you just bite into it. I don't know what you need. You know what you need. God knows what you need. Through the Spirit, He will help reveal that. But that is going to be your first baby step. And then you're going to take time. You are going to set aside purposeful, intentional time. Maybe you lock your phone or you leave your phone somewhere else and you just have a pen and a paper. And you are going to write down what's going on in all areas of your life. It can be bullet points. It can be long sentences or paragraphs. It can be Freudian style, just whatever comes out. But I want you to identify all those areas of your life. How am I doing physically? How am I doing with my eating? How am I doing with my habits? How is my thought life? How are my relationships with my kids and my husband, namely? And how is my walk with God? And after you take time to reassess how those things are going, and if this feels like a lot of pressure, just quick side note, if you're in that place where you feel like everything is a dumpster fire right now, I don't want to do this, it's going to make me feel awful, then don't do it. Just evaluate one part of your life, whatever feels doable right now. Otherwise, once you create that assessment, I want you to come up with a plan. And I want it to be the most natural, flow state, easiest to do plan you've ever made in your life. Like, I'm going to start by drinking at least 1 glass of water per day. Or I'm going to start by downloading an app and putting controls on Instagram or Facebook or Pinterest, whatever, YouTube, whatever it is for you. And I'm going to have a cutoff for how long I can spend time on this app each day. Whatever you need to do, go do that. Be obedient to what God reveals to you and start enacting your plan one baby step at a time. Now, here's something you need to hear. This sometimes is really easy and feels natural and great because we're ready and something has shifted inside of us and it just works and we have more capacity now. And then other times it is really hard and it can sometimes feel like pulling teeth. Both of those are okay. Both of those are acceptable. Meet yourself where you're at because that is where God meets you. But remember this, He always calls you higher. Think about the woman caught in adultery. He met her where she was at. I'm always amazed when I read that passage of scripture to see how Jesus didn't condemn her, but He also didn't heap guilt all over her because she already knew. She already felt guilty enough. And so He said, "Neither then do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." He met her where she was at and He called her higher. That is what God does for us every day of our life. He knows what your capacity is. He knows how tired you are, what you're eating or not eating, how much water you're drinking, how much your phone time is, if you're spending time with friends or spending time with your husband. He knows if your nervous system is completely shot. He knows those things and He's aware of it. And He creates margin for you to be able to take care of it because He created you that way. He created you as one huge holistic system that all works together. And He is rooting for you and He wants you to succeed and He has given you the tools that you need to do so. I hope all of this tracks for you. If you have any thoughts, any comments, any questions, okay, I hear you, but how do I do it in this situation? Guys, I'm on Instagram right now. Woohoo! You can contact me via Instagram. So much easier than sending an email. Sounds ridiculous, I know. But let me know your thoughts. Let me know if this has been helpful for you. Let me know what your needs are. Let me know if you have any questions. But no matter what, I want you to know that you are worth it and you can do it because God has given you everything you need for life and godliness. So now you know, if you're feeling overwhelmed, feeling far from God, that's what's really going on. Discipleship that ignores the body cannot work in this season of life. So do the assessment, pay attention to the body, pay attention to the mind, figure out where you are in point A so that you can get to point B, and it will get better. Slowly but surely, baby step by baby step, one day at a time. God is holding up your arms, and I am rooting for you. You've got this, mama, and we're in this together. And if anything, remember what James 4:8 says, draw near to God and He will draw near to you. So keep showing up because His presence is where the reset begins. Thank you for listening to the Christian Mom Reset and spending time with me today. If this episode encouraged you or was helpful in any way, would you do me one quick favor? I could really use your help getting the message out to other Christian mamas that there is still hope for emotional intimacy with God. The best way to help is by leaving a review. It tells the podcast algorithm to push this content to more moms like you searching for Christ-centered encouragement. And if you ever want to reach out, ask a question, or share how God is moving in your own motherhood, I would love to connect with you. You can email me at thechristianmomreset@gmail.com. It would truly be a joy to hear from you.